My brother called me. Is your wife home? I replied, yes, she's in the kitchen. He whispered, that's impossible. She just boarded my flight, with another man. Just then, is your wife home? My brother's voice didn't sound like my brother's. It sounded tight, compressed, like he was speaking through clenched teeth at 30,000 feet. I was standing in our kitchen in Naperville, Illinois, watching Lauren through the wide archway that separated the breakfast nook from the living room. She was barefoot, wearing the gray cardigan I bought her last Christmas, slicing strawberries onto a ceramic plate. The morning light hit her hair in that honey-colored way that always made me think of late summer. Yes, I said slowly into the phone. She's in the kitchen. There was a pause on the line, then Ethan whispered, that's impossible. My grip tightened around the counter's edge. She just boarded my flight, he said. Gate B-12, Seattle. She's in seat 2A and she's holding hands with another man. I watched my wife rinse the knife and place it neatly in the drying rack. She turned toward me, smiled and mouthed coffee. Behind me, the refrigerator hummed. In my ear, my brother's breathing went shallow. Danny said, I'm looking at her right now, and for the first time in 20 years of investigating fraud, I had no idea which reality I was standing in. My name is Daniel Hart. I'm 49 years old, a forensic auditor for a regional accounting firm in downtown Chicago. My job is to find what doesn't add up. I track embezzled funds, shell companies, digital paper trails. I sit across from men in tailored suits who swear under oath they've done nothing wrong, and I wait for the numbers to betray them. I have always believed in evidence over emotion. But that morning, standing barefoot on the cool tile floor of our kitchen, watching my wife of 16 years slice fruit for breakfast evidence, an emotion collided in a way I couldn't categorize. Ethan, I said, carefully keeping my eyes on Lauren. Are you sure? A faint crackle of cockpit interference answered me. Blue wool coat, he said. Her hair's pulled back. She's got that leather tote she carries to board meetings. She's laughing at something the guy next to her said. He's got his hand on her knee. Lauren set the strawberries down and reached for 2 mugs. The ceramic one with the chip on the rim was mine. The one that said choose kindness was hers. Daniel, Ethan pressed. Talk to me. I swallowed. Send me a picture. You know I can't just one discreet. Another pause. Then give me a minute. Lauren walked toward me holding out my mug. Who's that so early? She asked gently. Ethan, I replied, surprised at how steady my voice sounded. Pre-flight nerves. She smiled. Tell him to fly safe. Her hand brushed my arm as she passed. Warm. Familiar. Real. My phone vibrated. A photo. I opened it with hands that didn't shake. Years of depositions had trained that out of me. The image was slightly angled, taken from behind a half-closed cockpit door. But even with the blur of cabin lighting and compression artifacts, I saw her. Blue wool coat. Leather tote. Hair pulled back in a low knot. She was leaning toward a dark-haired man in a navy blazer. His fingers rested casually on her knee, the intimacy unguarded. She laughed at something he'd said, and had tilted in a way I had memorized over 16 years. It was Lauren. Or someone who wore her face perfectly. Dan, Ethan murmured. Boarding door just closed. In the kitchen, my wife reached for the cinnamon and sprinkled it over the strawberries. I lowered my voice. What time is takeoff? 10 minutes. Text me the tail number and the guy's description. You think this is a twin situation? He asked, disbelief creeping in. I think I said, forcing logic over panic, that I need more data. Lauren looked up. Everything okay? Yeah, I said, slipping my phone into my pocket. Client's anxious about a quarterly review. She walked over and kissed my cheek. You work too hard. The irony nearly made me laugh. Ethan texted again. Flight 4472. 810 departure. Guy, mid-40s, athletic build, no wedding ring. They're very comfortable. Very comfortable. I watched Lauren stir her tea clockwise. She always stirred clockwise. 3 turns. Tapped the spoon twice on the rim. A ritual as ingrained as muscle memory. You want eggs too? She asked. Just coffee. She studied my face for a second longer than usual. You look pale. Didn't sleep great. That audit. Something like that. She nodded, accepting it. I stepped away under the pretense of taking another call, and moved into my home office. Closed the door softly. My mind did what it always did in crisis. It built columns. Column A, Lauren in kitchen. Observable. Tangible. Breathing. Column B, Lauren on plane. Photographic evidence. Independent witness. 2 mutually exclusive realities. Unless my phone buzzed again. Ethan, they're taxing. I'll call after landing. I stared at the image on my screen. Zoomed in. The angle of her jaw. The small crescent-shaped scar near her left eyebrow from a childhood bike accident. Even the gold band on her ring finger. Except, I zoomed further. The ring. It looked identical. But Lauren had her wedding band resized last spring. The jeweler had added a thin platinum lining inside. In the photo I couldn't see that lining. I exhaled slowly. This wasn't screaming or throwing plates. This wasn't accusations in the kitchen. This was an anomaly. And anomalies required verification. Lauren knocked lightly on my office door and peeked in. "You sure you're okay?" "Yeah," I said. "Just thinking." She stepped inside and rested against my desk. "About numbers," she smiled. "You and your numbers." I studied her face as she stood there. The faint freckle on her cheek. The tiny indentation near her lip when she suppressed a laugh. If this wasn't Lauren, then someone had studied her with anthropological precision. Or my phone vibrated once more. A text from an unknown number. "Check your front door camera." A cold wave slid down my spine. Lauren was still standing in front of me. "Give me a second," I said quietly. I opened the security app. The live feed showed our front porch. Empty. But the playback icon flashed. A motion alert from 20 minutes ago. Before Ethan's call. I pressed play. The footage showed Lauren stepping out of her house. Blue wool coat. Leather tote. Hair pulled back in a low knot. She closed the door softly behind her. Time stamped 7:12 a.m. The current time 7:38. Behind me in my office. Lauren cleared her throat gently. "Da-na-na-na, you sunken." I turned around slowly. She was still there. And for the first time in my life, I couldn't tell which version of my wife was real. When you spend 2 decades auditing deception, you learn something most people never have to confront. The truth rarely explodes. It shifts. Quietly. Subtly. Like a painting that's been hanging straight for years until one morning you notice it's tilted half an inch to the left. Lauren followed me back into the kitchen after leaving my office. The strawberries were plated. The cinnamon was evenly dusted. The tea steeped to her exact preferred shade of amber. She moved through our space with unstudied ease. Opened the dishwasher. Closed it. Adjusted the blinds a fraction to block the glare on the granite countertops. If this was a performance, it was award-winning. "Did Ethan calm down?" she asked casually. "He will," I said, watching her reflection in the stainless steel refrigerator. "He always does." She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. That was new. Not dramatically new. Not enough for a jury, but enough for me. Lauren had expressive eyes. They softened when she was amused, darkened when she was annoyed, sparkled when she was trying not to laugh at one of my dry accountant jokes. Right now they were careful. I sat at the breakfast bar and took a slow sip of coffee, cataloging details the way I would during an interview. Posture relaxed. Breathing steady. Hands no tremor. Wedding ring correct. Platinum lining visible from this angle. She reached for the salt shaker and passed it to me. "Did you still want to drive out to Oak Brook tonight?" She asked for dinner with the Petersons. The Petersons. We hadn't had dinner with the Petersons in nearly 3 months. "They're in Scottsdale," I said mildly. "Remember they moved." A flicker. Barely perceptible. Then she laughed lightly. "Right. I'm thinking of someone else." "It's been one of those weeks." Lauren did not confuse people. She remembered birthdays, anniversaries, the names of our neighbors' labradoodles. I nodded slowly. "Long week." She took her tea to the living room and settled onto the couch, pulling her legs beneath her. The television turned on morning news. Same channel we always watched. Routine. Pattern. Continuity. Except 20 minutes ago that same woman had exited our front door on camera. I excused myself again, and returned to my office, closing the door quietly behind me. My phone buzzed. "Ethan, wheels up. I'll text when we land." I typed back, "Don't confront her. Just observe." Then I opened our shared credit card account. If someone was orchestrating something elaborate enough to create 2 Laurens, there would be bleed through somewhere. There always is. Transactions loaded in neat digital rows. Groceries. Utilities. Pass. Nonprofit lunch meeting. Except 3 weeks ago. The West, in O'Hare. 2 nights. $1,148. My stomach tightened. That weekend Lauren had told me she was at a board retreat in Milwaukee. I pulled up my calendar. Milwaukee Nonprofit Retreat. Friday through Sunday. Except Milwaukee was 2 hours north. O'Hare was 20 minutes east. Same dates. I kept scrolling. A dinner at RPM Steak on a Tuesday night. She told me she was volunteering late. Rideshare charges at 11:04, 7 p.m. Another hotel charged smaller. Boutique property near Midway. Individually, each charge could be explained. Collectively, they formed a pattern. Small inconsistencies. Under the threshold of suspicion. The kind of financial siphoning I'd seen in divorce cases before someone filed. My phone vibrated again. My area of error. I answered immediately. You sound like someone who just found termites in the foundation, she said without greeting. I might have found something worse. Start talking. I described Ethan's call. The photo. The door camera footage. Silence on her end. Okay, she said finally. Either your wife has perfected quantum physics, or someone's manipulating perception. I don't believe in impossible explanations. Good, she replied, because neither do I. Could footage be altered? Sure, but not easily. And not without motive. And someone boarding a plane who looks identical. She exhaled slowly. Daniel, are you absolutely certain the woman in your kitchen right now is Lauren? The question hung there. I married her, I said quietly. That's not what I asked. I looked through the crack of my office door. Lauren was curled on the couch scrolling through her phone. She looked up suddenly, as if sensing my gaze. For half a second our eyes met. And I felt something I couldn't quantify. Distance. She knows things only Lauren would know, I said. Does she my oppress gently, or does she know the script? I closed the door fully this time. Check her phone, Maya continued. Location services. Log in history. See if anything's been toggled recently. I opened the shared Apple ID dashboard. Location sharing disabled 3 months ago. I frowned. Lauren never turns that off. I muttered. What else? I checked email forwarding settings. An auto-forward rule created 92 days ago. All financial correspondence forwarded to an unfamiliar Gmail address. My pulse quickened. Maya. I'm here. There's a forward setup on our joint email. I didn't create it. Of course you didn't. I swallowed. This isn't just an affair, is it? No, she said softly. Affairs are emotional. This feels logistical. In the living room, Lauren laughed at something on her phone. A soft, natural sound. Except Lauren rarely laughed alone. She usually read me the joke. Showed me the meme. This time she didn't. Maya, I said quietly. If someone wanted to move assets quietly before a divorce, how would they do it? Small withdrawals. Loans against retirement accounts. Changes to beneficiaries. Identity confusion to buy time. I opened our retirement account portal. A pending beneficiary update request from 2 weeks ago. To an unfamiliar name. Jason Cole. The name from Ethan's description. I felt the world tilt slightly beneath me. Maya. I said, my voice flattening into the tone I used during depositions. I need you to run a background on Jason Cole. Immediately. Send me everything. I ended the call and stepped back into the living room. Lauren looked up. You look like you're thinking too hard, she teased. Occupational hazard. She patted the seat beside her. Come sit. You've been distant all morning. I sat down. Close enough to smell her perfume. Close enough to feel her warmth. Close enough to wonder whether I was sitting next to my wife or a woman who had studied her long enough to pass. She rested her head lightly on my shoulder. I love you, Daniel, she said. The words were perfectly delivered. The tone flawless. But something inside them felt rehearsed. My phone vibrated again. Ethan. Landing in 20. She's still here. Same guy. They're not hiding it. I stared straight ahead at the muted news ticker. Scrolling across the screen. Beside me, Lauren squeezed my hand gently. And I realized something with chilling clarity. Whoever was on that plane. And whoever was sitting beside me. They were both moving according to a plan. And I was the only variable they hadn't accounted for. Part 2. The perfect wife. The wrong details. 1038 words. Tiaptuki. Part 3. The first test. There's a moment in every fraud investigation when suspicion becomes strategy. You stop asking, is this happening? And you start asking, how do I prove it? Lauren's head rested against my shoulder. The morning news rolled across the screen, markets opening lower. A political headline. About trade tariffs. A weather update. Predicting light snow by the weekend. Ordinary life. Her thumb traced small circles against my palm. If she noticed the tension in my muscles, she didn't comment on it. I might head to the office later, she said lightly. Board's meeting got rescheduled. Something about funding allocations. That's new, I replied, keeping my tone neutral. Nonprofits are chaotic, she laughed. Lauren hated chaos. She color-coded our pantry. My phone buzzed again. Ethan taxing to gate. I'll call when clear. I slipped the phone face down on the coffee table. Lauren glanced at it briefly. You're popular this morning. Quarter end always is. She nodded and stood. I'll grab a shower. I watched her walk down the hallway toward our bedroom. Waited until the bathroom door closed. Then I moved. Not dramatically. Not frantically. Just deliberately. I walked to the coat rack near the front door. Blue wool coat. Gone. My stomach tightened. I checked the closet in the mudroom. No blue coat. I opened the laundry room hamper. Nothing. I went back to the security app. Replaced 712 AM. Lauren exits house in blue coat. Current Lauren had been wearing a great cardigan all morning, which meant either she left change and re-entered without triggering a camera, or someone else had left wearing her coat. I returned to my office and called Ethan. He answered immediately. We're at the gate, he said quietly. Passengers deplaning. Stay where you are. I can't exactly linger in the aisle. Just confirm something for me. The coat she's wearing, describe it. Blue wool. Mid-thigh length. Gold buttons. Gold buttons. Our coat had silver. My pulse slowed, not from relief, but from clarity. That's not her coat, I said. What tenant to everyone? She doesn't own a blue coat with gold buttons. There was movement on his end. Dan. She's walking toward the jet bridge now. The guy's got his arm around her waist. Follow them visually as long as you can. I'll see what I can do. The line went quiet. I leaned back in my chair and exhaled slowly. Not identical. Close. Close enough to fool a casual observer, but not precise. Which meant this wasn't a glitch in reality. It was orchestration. The bathroom door down the hall opened. Water shut off. I needed a test. Something subtle. Something only Lauren, my Lauren, would respond to instinctively. I walked into the bedroom as she emerged from the bathroom wrapped in a towel, hair damp. Hey, she said, smiling. I was thinking, I replied casually, we should make shrimp scampi tonight. She froze. Only for half a second. Then she laughed lightly. You hate shrimp. True, but that wasn't the point. Lauren had a mild shellfish allergy. Not life-threatening, but enough to avoid it entirely. She always reminded restaurants twice. I thought you liked it, I said. Not really, she answered, reaching for her closet. We haven't had it in years. Correct. Because of her allergy. Except, she didn't mention it. She didn't say, I can't eat shrimp. She just deflected. I watched her choose a blouse navy silk and step into tailored slacks. Actually, she added, we could do salmon instead. Lauren always over-explained her dietary boundaries. This version did not. Sure, I said softly. She moved to the dresser and reached for her jewelry box. Her hand hesitated over a pair of pearl earrings. Lauren rarely hesitated over pearls. She wore them automatically for formal meetings. Now she picked up gold hoops instead. Small detail, but cumulative. My phone vibrated again. Maya Jason Cole is real. Background thin. LLC registered 11 months ago. No substantial employment history before that. Frequent travel. I type backcheck if he's connected to beneficiary change request. 3 dots appeared almost immediately. Already did. That's the same name. The bathroom mirror still held faint steam. Lauren applied mascara with steady hands. Do you need anything from the store, she asked lightly. Where are you headed, I countered. Office, she said. I watched her reflection. No flinch. No hesitation. You said earlier the meeting got rescheduled. She paused. Then smiled. Right. But I still have work to catch up on. Lauren never wasted a commute without a formal meeting. She complained about traffic constantly. I nodded slowly. Drive safe. She kissed my cheek. Her lips were warm. Her perfume familiar. But as she walked past me, I noticed something else. A faint mark near her left collarbone. A small crescent scar. Except Lauren's scar was above her eyebrow. Not here. I didn't react. Didn't breathe differently. Didn't speak. Just observed. She grabbed her purse and headed toward the front door. "See you tonight," she said. The door closed softly behind her. I waited 5 full seconds. Then I ran to the front window. Her car, a silver Volvo, pulled out of the driveway smoothly. I opened the security app. Front door camera. Lauren exits. No blue coat. No leather tote. But as the feed rewound slightly, I noticed something I'd missed earlier. At 6:04 a.m., 18 minutes before the 7.12 departure clip, there was another motion alert. I pressed play. A black SUV idled across the street. Driver unseen. At 7:09, the SUV pulled away. 3 minutes later, Lauren exited in the blue coat. My heart slowed. Which meant, the Lauren in the blue coat likely never came from inside my house. She came from that SUV. My phone rang. "Ethan. They're in baggage claim," he said quietly. I followed at a distance. "Dan." She just kissed him. I closed my eyes. "How close?" I asked evenly. "Close enough that there's no ambiguity." "Did she notice you?" "No, but Dan. I'm telling you from a distance, it's her. It's not her coat," I repeated softly. There was silence. "You think this is some kind of look-alike situation?" "I think," I said carefully, "someone is creating visual confirmation." "For what?" "For leverage." In my office, I opened our shared Google account. Recent device login unknown iPhone 3 months ago. Location O'Hare International Airport. At the exact time the auto-forward email rule was created. This wasn't romantic betrayal. This was preparation. "Ethan," I said quietly, "I need you to do something. Anything. Find out where they go. Hotel. Car rental. Anything you can. I'll text you." I ended the call and stared at the screen. 2 Lawrence. One in Seattle with a man named Jason Cole. One driving toward downtown Chicago in my wife's car. Either they were both complicit, or one of them was an imposter. And if there was an imposter, that meant someone had been studying my life closely enough to replicate it. Which meant I wasn't just being deceived. I was being observed. My office door clicked softly. I looked up. Lauren stood there. But she just left. No. I blinked. Empty hallway. Adrenaline. I exhaled slowly. I needed confirmation. Hard confirmation. I picked up my phone and texted Maya. "I'm setting a second test tonight." Her reply came instantly. "Good. Make it something physiological, not memory-based." I typed back. "Already did." Because tonight I wasn't making salmon. I was making shrimp. And if the woman sitting across from me ate it without hesitation, then I would know, without doubt, that I was living with a stranger. By 5 o'clock that evening, the house looked exactly the way it always did. The dishwasher hummed. The thermostat clicked on. The faint scent of lemon cleaner lingered in the air from Lauren's habitual wipe down of the countertops. Outside, our neighbor's sprinkler system ticked rhythmically across a perfectly maintained lawn. Normalcy has a sound. And that night, it was deafening. I stood at the kitchen island deveining shrimp with steady hands. I hadn't bought shrimp in years. The fishmonger at Mariano's had even commented on it. "Long time," he'd said casually. "Change of taste," I replied. Lauren walked in from the garage around 5:18 p.m., heels tapping lightly against the tile. "Smells good," she called. Garlic and butter had already begun to sizzle in the pan. She leaned against the doorway watching me cook. "You're full of surprises today." "You said salmon," I replied, without looking up. "I did. Felt like something different." She crossed the room slowly, and rested her hands on the back of a dining chair. For a split second I saw calculation behind her eyes. "You remembered I don't eat shrimp, right?" she asked lightly. There it was. The correction. But it came too cleanly, too precisely timed. "Yes," I said evenly. "Mild allergy. Nothing serious." She smiled. "Still not worth the risk." The shrimp sizzled louder. Ethan texted. "They're at the Edgewater Hotel in Seattle. Checked in together. Room 1207. I felt the numbers align in my head. The Western O'Hare charge. The boutique hotel near Midway. The subtle withdrawals. The Seattle trip wasn't impulsive. It was procedural. Lauren stepped closer to the stove. "Do you want me to make something else for myself?" she asked. "You could." She paused. Then, instead of pulling out ingredients, she reached for a plate and scooped a small portion of shrimp and linguine onto it. I'll just eat around it, she said. Lauren would never eat around shellfish. She wouldn't risk cross-contamination. I watched her carry the plate to the table and sit down. She twirled a strand of pasta around her fork. Then, without hesitation, lifted a shrimp to her mouth. And bit. No flinch. No hesitation. No reflexive check of her throat. No reach for water. She chewed calmly and swallowed. It's actually really good, she said. I felt something inside me settle, not with panic, but with clarity. The woman sitting across from me was not Lauren Hart. She might share her face, her voice, her gestures, but she did not share her physiology. You sure? I asked gently. Positive. She took another bite. I reached for my phone and typed a single word to Maya. Confirmed. Her reply came within seconds. Okay, now we move. I set my phone down and leaned back in my chair. Tell me something, I said conversationally. When was the last time we visited your mother? She didn't blink. Last fall after Thanksgiving. Wrong. We'd visited in February. She'd slipped on ice in the driveway and insisted she was fine. That's right, I said calmly. And what did she make? Roast chicken. Wrong again. It had been lasagna. I smiled faintly. You've had a long day, I said. She studied me carefully. You're being strange tonight. Occupational hazard. I stood and began clearing plates. She rose too, carrying her half-eaten meal to the sink. No signs of discomfort. No hives. No swelling. Nothing. Physiological confirmation. As she rinsed her plate, I caught sight of her left hand again. Wedding ring. Platinum lining. Correct. But something else caught my eye. A faint indentation on her ring finger. As if a different ring had been worn recently. Everything okay? She asked, catching my stare. Just thinking. She dried her hands and walked toward the living room. I might take a bath, she said. Headache. Of course. Once the bathroom door closed and water began running, I moved fast. I entered our bedroom and went straight to her jewelry box. Under the velvet tray there was usually a small envelope where she kept receipts from resizing her wedding band. Gone. I checked the closet. Blue wool coat with silver buttons still there. Untouched. Which meant the coat and the airport photo was in ours. Impersonation, not duplication. My phone buzzed. Ethan. They're having dinner downstairs, he whispered. Hotel restaurant. Intimate. No sign of concealment. Get me a photo of his face, I said. I'll try. 2 minutes later, an image arrived. Jason Cole. Clear this time. Late 30s. Athletic. Clean shaven. Expensive watch. Confident posture. I sent the photo to Maya. Dig deep. Her response already on it. The bath water shut off. I slipped back into the kitchen. When Lauren reappeared wrapped in a robe, hair damp, she looked serene. Untouched by crisis. Feel better? I asked. Much. She crossed the room and kissed me softly. Her lips lingered half a second too long. Testing. Daniel, she said quietly. Are you happy? The question landed oddly. Yes, I replied. She searched my face. Asking hypothetically, she added, if something changed, would you fight for us? There it was. The emotional probe. Not guilt. Not fear. Calibration. I always fight for what's mine, I said evenly. Her eyes flickered. Just slightly. She nodded. Good. She turned off the lights and headed toward the bedroom. I waited until the door closed. Then I called Grace Mallory. She answered on the second ring. You don't call me at 8 p.m., unless something's on fire, she said. It might be, I replied. Talk. My wife is either having an affair or participating in something more complex. I have evidence of financial irregularities, beneficiary changes, possible identity confusion. Grace was silent for a beat. Do you have documentation? Yes. Then you do not confront her. I wasn't planning to. You freeze your credit first thing in the morning. You secure joint accounts. And Daniel. Yes. You gather everything quietly. If this is coordinated, speed is your only advantage. I ended the call and sat alone in the dim kitchen. In Seattle, a woman who looked like my wife was dining with a man named Jason Cole. Upstairs, a woman who ate shrimp without consequence lay in my bed. 2 Lawrence. 1 marriage. And somewhere between Chicago and Seattle, a plan had been unfolding for months. My phone vibrated one final time that night. Maya. Jason Cole isn't just a consultant. He specializes in asset extraction schemes targeting high-income couples. Daniel. You're not just being cheated on. You're being prepared. I stared at the message for a long time. Prepared. For what? Etunurium. Dare. Divorce. Humanum. Inkinanena. Nam. Bankruptcy. Disappearance. Aturi. Upstairs the bedroom light clicked off. And for the first time in 16 years I locked my office door before going to sleep. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. I lay beside the woman who wore my wife's face and listened to her breathing even out into the soft rhythm of sleep. She turned once, murmured something unintelligible, and settled again. Lauren. My Lauren had always been a light sleeper. She shifted frequently. Woke at the smallest creak of floorboards. Reached for my arm instinctively if I rolled too far away. This woman slept like someone with nothing to lose. At 2:04 a.m., I slid quietly out of bed. I moved into my office, closed the door and opened my laptop. Maya had sent a file. Jason Cole, born in Phoenix. Minimal employment record until age 32. Then a string of short-term consulting gigs tied loosely to financial restructuring. 2 of those companies had later dissolved under quiet litigation. No criminal record. No direct charges. But patterns. Always the same pattern. High-income household. Complex asset structure. Sudden marital discord. Within 6 months, a significant portion of assets moved offshore. Then, dissolution. Asset extraction, Maya had called it. I opened our retirement accounts again. 2 more small transfers had processed overnight. $9,750 each. Below federal reporting thresholds. To a holding account in Nevada. I felt anger begin to replace disbelief. Not because of the affair. But because of the calculation. 16 years of partnership reduced to a spreadsheet strategy. At 6:03 a.m., Ethan texted, "They're still in Seattle. Same room. No separation." I typed back, "Stay out of sight." I needed to see the digital picture more clearly. I accessed our joint Google account again. There it was. A second device login. Timestamp. 3:04. 1 a.m. Chicago time. Location Seattle. That meant the woman in my bed had not logged into our account overnight. The real Lauren had. Which confirmed what I already suspected. The woman upstairs was not operating independently. She was part of a synchronized system. At 7:08 a.m. she came into the kitchen dressed for work. Cream blouse. Navy slacks. She poured herself coffee without speaking. "You're up early," she said casually. "Couldn't sleep. Work stress." Something like that. She took a sip and studied me. "You're different," she said quietly. "In what way?" "Distracted. Am the first." She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she set her mug down carefully. "Daniel, if something were wrong between us, you'd tell me, right?" The phrasing was deliberate. Not as something wrong, but if something were wrong. I leaned back in my chair. "Lauren," I said evenly, "when was the last time you went to Seattle?" She didn't blink. "Last year." "Conference. Which hotel?" She hesitated half a second too long. "The Sheraton downtown." Ethan had texted me the night before. "Edgewater Hotel, room 1207. I nodded slowly. "You ever stayed at the Edgewater?" I asked. "No," she replied instantly. Not even curiosity, not even a why. Just denial. My phone vibrated again. Maya. I pulled hotel security footage from Seattle through a contact. "You need to see this." An image loaded on my screen. Lauren, undeniably Lauren, checking into the Edgewater with Jason Cole. Same blue coat. Gold buttons. Her hair was styled slightly differently than the woman in my kitchen. A small detail. But distinct. And on her left hand, a different wedding band. Same design. But slightly thicker. My pulse steadied. The Lauren upstairs wore a real ring. The Lauren in Seattle wore a duplicate. Which meant this wasn't a last-minute disguise. It was premeditated duplication. I looked up at the woman in front of me. She was watching me carefully now. "You're quiet," she said. Thinking, I replied, "Bow is to vary you." Continuity. She smiled faintly. "That sounds ominous." "It's accounting." She stepped closer. "Daniel, are you happy?" There it was again. The emotional gauge. "I am," I said calmly. "Are you?" She hesitated. Then nodded. "Of course." But something in her voice was thinner now. I stood. "I have an idea," I said. "What's that?" "Let's invite everyone over this weekend." "For what?" "Our anniversary." She blinked. Our anniversary isn't until October, she said. Correct. But she had answered reflexively. No calculation, no delay. Which meant she knew the correct date. Which meant she had studied thoroughly. Early celebration, I shrugged. That's sudden. Spontaneity is good for marriage. She searched my face. Who would you invite? Your parents, my brother, a few close friends, maybe even our financial advisor. The last one landed. I saw the flicker. Why the advisor? She asked lightly. I want to restructure some investments, celebrate properly. Her jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Sure, she said finally. If that's what you want. It is. She nodded and picked up her purse. I'll handle the invitation, she offered. I'd prefer to send them from our joint email, I replied gently. Another microsecond pause. Of course. After she laughed, I immediately called Grace. She's going to accelerate, I said. Good, Grace replied. Let her. I'm hosting a gathering. Smart. I need to freeze accounts quietly before then. Do it today in Daniel. Yes. Do not confront her alone. I ended the call and sat in silence for a long moment. 2 Lawrence. 1 extracting assets in Seattle. 1 maintaining the domestic illusion in Chicago. 1 original. 1 operative. Both coordinated. But if this was an asset extraction scheme, then it depended on timing. And timing depended on me remaining passive. I walked to the hallway, and opened the small storage cabinet near the garage. Inside was Lauren's old iPhone. The one she'd cracked 6 months ago. She'd claimed it was dead. I pressed the power button. The screen flickered. Battery 4%. Messages loaded. A thread with Jason Cole. 8 months long. He's predictable. He won't check until it's too late. We'll finalize beneficiary changes before he notices. Marcus confirmed the duplicate ring arrived. Duplicate ring. There it was. I felt the final piece lock into place. This wasn't confusion. This was an identity theft. This was a stage replacement. And the woman in my house was playing her role until the transfer completed. My phone buzzed again. Maya. Daniel. I found something else. There are 2 passport scans tied to Lauren's ID. 1 original. 1 recently issued replacement. My heart slowed. 2 passports. 2 rings. 2 locations. 2 Lawrence. And only one of them had married me. I closed the cabinet and stood very still in the quiet of my home. Upstairs the bed was still unmade. Coffee sat half drunk in a mug that said choose kindness. But kindness wasn't the currency being exchanged here. Assets were. And if they thought I was just another unsuspecting husband, they had miscalculated. Because unlike their other targets, I understood how to audit deception. By Friday afternoon everything was in motion. Grace had filed an emergency notice with our financial institutions to require dual in-to-person verification for any beneficiary changes. Maya had set digital alerts on every joint account we shared, retirement brokerage savings. Even the minor custodial account we once opened for a niece. Nothing froze yet. Freezing too early would tip them off. Instead we built a perimeter. Lauren, Seattle. Lauren was scheduled to fly back Sunday night. Ethan had confirmed the return ticket. Business class. Same seat cluster. Jason Cole beside her. The woman in my house remained composed. If anything, she seemed more affectionate. She initiated conversation more often. Touched my arm casually when she passed. Suggested we take a weekend away soon. Guilt performance, or timing calibration. Saturday morning she brought up the anniversary gathering. I sent invitations, she said, stirring her coffee. From the joint account, I asked mildly. Yes. I had already checked. She had. Which meant she believed access control was intact. Which meant she didn't know I had recovered the old phone. Good, I said. Let's make it special. Of course. She hesitated slightly. Daniel. What's this really about? What do you mean? The financial advisor. The sudden celebration. It feels deliberate. I met her gaze evenly. It is. A flicker crossed her face. Deliberate how? I've been reviewing our portfolio. I think it's time for transparency. The word landed. Transparency. She held my eyes for 2 full seconds before smiling. I'm glad, she said softly. We should always be transparent. Yes. We should. Sunday evening arrived quietly. Seattle. Lauren landed at O'Hare at 7:48 p.m. Ethan texted as soon as the wheels touched down. She's on her phone immediately. Looks tense. 5 minutes later. Jason left her at baggage claim. Separate directions. Interesting. I watched the door camera live feed. At 8:32 p.m. the silver Volvo pulled into the driveway. The woman who had been living in my house all week had not left. Which meant Seattle Lauren had returned. The front door opened. Lauren stepped inside. Blue wool coat. Silver buttons. Leather tote. My Lauren. She stopped abruptly when she saw the other woman standing in the hallway. For the first time since this began. A crack in composure. Not subtle. Not masked. Pure shock. They stared at each other. Mirror images. Same posture. Same hair. Same build. But not identical. Seattle Lauren's jawline was slightly sharper. The imposter's smile more trained. You weren't supposed to be back until tomorrow, the imposter said before she could stop herself. Silence. My real wife slowly closed the door behind her. I think we need to talk, she said. The imposter glanced at me. Then back at Lauren. Calculation flashed. You told him, she asked. Lauren's eyes flicked to me. Not guilt. Not apology. Fear. I told him nothing. She replied tightly. You were supposed to handle the transition cleanly. The imposter hissed. Transition. There it was. I stepped forward. Transition of what I asked evenly. Both women turned toward me. Seattle Lauren inhaled slowly. Daniel. Her voice. Identical. But the cadence was different. Less practiced. More familiar. You've been stealing from me, I said calmly. Silence. The imposter laughed softly. Oh, Daniel. You're overreacting. No, I replied. I'm auditing. I pulled the old phone from my pocket and held it up. The color drained from Seattle Lauren's face. You kept that, she whispered. Apparently you didn't account for it. The imposter's posture shifted subtly defensive now. You don't understand, she began. I understand beneficiary changes. I understand small withdrawals under reporting thresholds. I understand duplicate passports.